We'll start. Leave my keys with you.
Because it's fine if we don't. Yeah, if it gets too close.
I don't think it will.
You write very neatly.
Oh, thank you. I tried, but you know,
A lot neater than I did.
Hi to the 4 people who are watching.
I'm one of them.
do we have some here watching? Get started in just a minute.
Apologize for not feeding them. The people on the screen.
No, that's true.
Is this going to work? You need him to scoot over. Hey, Gabriel. Yes. Can you would you mind scooting over to the right so her camera?
No, actually he's okay with that
Oh, he's
because
fine?
you're fine where you are because we can see the sheets on the other side. So
Okay.
you're right between her.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're good.
That'll work, Ken.
Yep, you're perfect.
Cool. You got another one. All right.
All right, well, I think we're ready to get started. If you have a pad of paper and a pen, what I would love for you to do is read the quote from this famous piece of work and draw what you see. You do not have to be an artist to do this. Oh, no. I will give you a minute or two, and we do have faculty advisors here to help you out if you need them. That's you too. Dr. Horn, Professor Teller. I'm saying it wrong. Tifa Teller, sorry. Tifa Teller.
It's all right. You always call me Marty.
I know I do. Take 60 more seconds. All right, is everyone at a comfortable spot? I use that word loosely. I'm Amye Wombles, and I'm really excited to be here today to talk about Shakespeare's use of imagery in Henry V, and to be a part of Blount this year. So what I would like to do before we actually review what imagery is and the ways that authors use it is for you all to share out of your comfort zone. I know, but thank you for doing it anyway. Share your quote and then just show us what you drew in response to this description. Volunteer to go first. Thank you.
From Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. Quote, as she unfolded the white linen and let it billow over the fine mahogany table, she would look once more at the large water. She never set the table or passed through the dining room without looking at it. Like a lighthouse keeper drawn to his window to gaze once again at the sea, or a prisoner automatically searching out the sun as he steps into the yard for his hour of exercise, Ruth looked for the watermark several times during the day. And then I sort of showed her setting the table with the watermark sort of taking precedence as she's unfolding it and
Nice.
kind of settling it over the table. The watermark is sort of positioned over her face, and then her hands gently smoothing out the cloth.
Very nice. Nice, thank you. Can you give us 2 words from your quotes that were descriptive, that helped you to see it, see the action, see something?
Just 2 words. Billow was one, and then difficult to choose a single word. Automatically searching, or the second sentence, drawing parallels between like a lighthouse keeper looking out at the sea, something open, whereas a lighthouse keeper is trapped in the lighthouse, or a prisoner looking for the sun as they step out for their hour of exercise, meaning they're otherwise trapped. This watermark on the tablecloth really represents some measure of hope, or not necessarily of freedom, just something beyond whatever is happening to her.
I love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love the word billow.
Billow's a very
See it?
good word.
Yes.
Please don't be cowed or intimidated. I'm literally like an art major.
Well, we're so glad you're here today.
That's,
Sure.
I'm not sure.
No, please.
Everybody has their own interpretations, right? What you see. All right, Dr. Rivers, do you want to share?
No.
Please.
All right. From Moby Dick by Roald Melville. Now small fowls flew screaming over the yet yawning gulf. The sullen white surf beat against its steep sides, then all collapsed, and the great shroud of the sea rolled on as it rolled 5,000 years ago. I have a problem with it anyway, because I don't know what its steep side is, so that was the problem. So my really bad drawing is of screaming birds. I draw them as M's, like I was taught to, and then waves crashing, and then collapsing somewhere in the middle, because I don't know what they were crashing against. So,
Good point.
yes.
I love foul screaming.
Vowels screaming, yes. Yes.
Okay,
And
so-
yet yawning.
Are those your descriptive words?
I would say screaming, yawning, and collapse would be the 3 that I
Helps you
picked up
see
on.
it.
Yes.
Thank you. Adriana, do you want to share yours with us next?
Yeah, so I got Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare. Says, oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright. Her beauty hangs upon the cheek of night, like a rich bullet in Ethiopia's skin. And then for the imagery, I did a girl and earrings, and then night, and then a candle. Well, a torch.
That's a really good candy.
Good job. This is when Romeo first sees Juliet, right?
What soft? What light through window
Oh,
breaks?
thank you. I love that. What does it mean she's a rich jewel?
Like something that's hard to come by.
Oh, that's good.
That's a great interpretation.
It is a great interpretation. Thank you. It's really good. And don't know your name? Gabriel.
Gabriel is my name.
What?
He is.
That's why you gave him your assignment.
It is.
I love that. Okay. If you would share yours.
So I got Birches by Robert Frost. Here's what it says. When I see birches bend to left and right, across the line to straighter, darker trees, I like to think some boy has been swinging them. But swinging doesn't bend them down to stay, as ice storms do. Often you must have seen them, loaded with ice a sunny winter morning after a rain. They click upon themselves as the breeze rises, and turn many-colored as the skirt cracks and crazes their enamel. And I'm not a very good artist at all, but this is what I got.
Tell us.
I love that.
Let's see.
Can we see back here?
There you go.
Oh, I like it.
So, yes, I was thinking about how it said loaded with ice.
Yes.
That was kind of what helped there, because there's ice on the branches you can kind of see. And I remembered a time a few years ago when there was an ice storm like that here, sort of, and there are trees in my neighborhood that are still bent over, but they were young then, and they still bent from that. So that, I know what he's talking about. So that helped with the imagery. And then I guess the word swinging, like,
Yeah, what is that?
kind of showed how it was like swaying to the side. That was about all.
I think it's great. Yeah. And great use of a Texas South connection, thinking back to when you experienced the nice storm and you actually saw the tree branches. So you knew exactly when you read that line, those words, what it looked like, right? Yeah, great. All right. Well, what you just did was practice finding imagery in literature. And Shakespeare certainly uses visual imagery in Henry V. Let's review what imagery is. Imagery is, in any sort of writing, a reference to description that engages your senses. So sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell. Anything the author describes and it taps into those senses you have, that is imagery. Imagery can be used by authors for all kinds of reasons, but I have 4 reasons for you today. First of all, it's engaging. Readers can see and feel what's going on in a story. It engages your imagination. It brings you into the events, whatever is happening. Also, imagery makes writing interesting. Without imagery, some writing would be dry and dull, and imagery helps to make it more vibrant and even more personal if you make connections to it. It can set the scene and communicate someone's character to us. So if there's a description of a person, how they look, how they move, how they sound, how they smell, it may tell you a lot about the person. It can also do that with setting for places. Imagery is a necessary detail, and it allows the reader to understand the world. It can be symbolic. And here is where, when I think of imagery, I often think in symbols. So imagery can describe the world. It can establish symbolic meanings. And this helps us to think more deeply about a text. It could be a description of the weather as very rainy and dark. What emotion does that make you feel? What mood does it put you as the reader in? Can you think of a mood word if you're reading a setting and it's dark and gloomy?
Sepulchre.
Yeah, right. Sadness, or Edgar Allan Poe's famous for this, right? Putting us in a somber mood or a depressive mood. So it can be symbolic like that, or Moby Dick, and how he describes that whale that Dr. Rivers doesn't like. It's not the whale, right?
I like the whales. I was rooting for the whale.
Yes. All right, so let's move on to Henry V. Shakespeare tries to get the audience's imagination. Now remember that Henry V was meant to be acted out on a stage, correct? Not really read like we have to do it now. And in Shakespeare's day, they didn't have a lot of things like props that we have now. We have lots of ways, such as in film, to bring things to the screen. What?
Bolster the performance?
Yes, bolster the performance. I love your word choice. But Shakespeare had to rely on words, right? This is why we call him a word genius. He knew how to use words in a very powerful way. So to get his audience's imagination going, he had to be very descriptive. He describes in Henry V fields of battle, French castles, taverns in back places, right? For example, in the prologue, he uses these words to describe the fields of France. Can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France? Or may we cram within this wooden O the very cask that did affright the air at Agincourt? Am I pronouncing it? Agincourt. I had it broken down here. The chorus here in the prologue is trying to engage not just our visual imagination, but our whole sensory experience of the story. Shakespeare's chorus builds up the landscape of the scene, and here are the words he uses to do that. Shakespeare. From camp to camp through the foul gloom of night, the hum of either army stilly sounds, that the fixed sentinels almost perceive the secret whispers of each other's watch. Shakespeare sets it up for us that he is going to be very descriptive and get us to use our imaginations throughout the play right from the beginning of the prologue. So on our board here, hopefully you can see and read my handwriting. There are 4 general areas that, or types of imagery that, themes of imagery that Shakespeare uses in Henry V. So, does anybody know anything about Greek and Roman mythology?
Romans kind of took a lot of Greek mythology for their own, kind of renamed them as part of their conquest of the area. So there's a lot of like carryover from both Ulysses versus Odysseus and things like that.
Good point. Yes.
Mars and Ares. Pluto and Hades.
Oh, that's good. Very good. So your prior knowledge is going to help you here with while we talk about Greek and Roman mythology references in Henry V. So the image of, sorry, hold on just a second. I started on the wrong. Okay. Sorry. In the prologue, Shakespeare describes Henry as warlike, bearing the fort of Mars. So Mars is the Roman god of war. What does that right away tell you about Henry? How is Shakespeare trying to portray him to you? What would a god of war be like?
It projects, in my mind at least, the image of a strong, stalwart individual, kind of like built wide and tall. Brave, perhaps. Definitely battle forward, unafraid. Is what I would use.
Very good. So this imagery of a god of war gives us that perception of Henry as brave, ready for battle. Later on in Act 2, Scene 4, Shakespeare uses the word Jove to describe Henry. And Jove is a Roman god of thunder. Now, if you describe someone as thunder, what are you saying about them? Loud. Powerful. Yes.
Concussive. Concussive.
Maybe. Are these all positive traits of a leader who has to go into war? Is that someone we would want to lead us into war? That type of person? Yes. In Act 3, in the prologue of Act 3, Henry is described as Phoebus, who is the Roman and Greek god of the sun. I got a little typo there, but it's S-U-N. Sun. What would that tell us about Henry?
He's a shining light.
And that means what?
He's someone who brings potentially good fortune, and knowledge generally is associated with light as well. However, given like the other two parallels that have been drawn with Mars and Jove. Oh, by Jove, I get it now. I never. I get it now. But considering the parallels with Mars and Jove, perhaps a knowledge bringer is not the most apt conceptual visual to draw with Phoebus. Light's, the sun, it brings warmth, it brings prosperity. It's a symbol of like sun, summer, that's the word.
Very good. Yeah. So somebody who shines brightly, they're a leader. People probably like to be around them, et cetera, et
They
cetera.
brighten up a room.
Yeah, you can brighten up the room. That's a perfect way to put it. So, bringing in the Greek and Roman mythology, Shakespeare creates this character for us that has leadership traits, right? I am almost out of time, I think, so I'm going to have to hurry. We have imagery of beasts and birds of prey. Mostly, Shakespeare is comparing Henry here to a lion. Now, let's think about that for a second. If you describe someone as a lion, what would you mean?
Strong.
Strong?
Being like
Regal.
Regal, yes. Again, positive traits for someone who is going to be a leader, especially in war. I'm going to skip my quotes, but please know I have my evidence here. I'm sorry, lions is over here. What did I do? All right, let's go to sport and tennis, because can we all relate to tennis? I'm surprised about reading about tennis balls in Shakespeare's play. I remember that being a little funny to me when I first read the play when I was where you are in college. But the tennis balls we have today would not look like the tennis balls in Shakespeare's time. In fact, they were very heavy, they did not bounce, etc. But Henry gets a delivery of some tennis balls, and they were sent to him by the French Dauphin, who was like the prince in France. So he is trying to antagonize him here by sending him a box of tennis balls. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shakespeare scholars. This was a ploy to ag on Henry, ag him on, actually referring to him as being very immature in some of his actions. You're like a tennis ball, you're just all spoiled. Well, Henry didn't take very well to that delivery, and he actually came back with his own response to the Dauphin and says, and tell the when we have matched our rackets to these balls, we will in France, by God's grace, play a set shall strike his father's crown into the hazard until the pleasant prince, this mock of his, hath turned his balls to bloodstones. And his soul shall stand sore charged for wasteful vengeance that shall fly with them. What does he mean? Turn these balls to gunstones. Weapons to use against him. So Prince Dauphin's attempt to antagonize Henry really did that, right? So but now he's really fired up and he says, well, let's just turn these balls into cannonballs then and we will fight. Okay, imagery in Henry V. I'm going to end my remarks here. Do you all have questions or added comments? Or Shakespeare scholars, do you have anything to add?
One of the things that's important, and I'm glad you brought up the prologue, is they were trying, prologue and Shakespeare was trying to use imagery, use specific strong imagery to get the audience to imagine the fields of France on a single round or proscenium stage. So it's asking the audience to imagine what France would look like. And so the audiences have to use the imagery to create their own picture in their minds. They can have all location sets. And so using imagery was a way of getting the audience to see what Shakespeare wanted them to see.
So much different from when we go to a film and see film today. We've got all the stuff we can see on the film. But Shakespeare had to use those words to create the imagery. Thank you. All right, thank y'all for being here. I think it's almost time for class. Join us tomorrow for Dr. Thorne's presentation. Is Henry a villain or
A
a
hero
hero?
or somewhere in between.
All right, thank you all. Have a good day.
Yay!